It's amazing how far video games have come graphically since the dawn of games, from Pog, Super Mario, Legend of Zelda back in the 80s, all the way up to the 3D era and modern day graphics. And that also includes improvements in realism as well as draw distance. So I thought today we'd do a little comparison side by side between San Andreas Definitive Edition and the OG San Andreas. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I saw this image of Mount Chiliad in the background prior to the Definitive Edition launch, and it made me a little concerned for the draw distance issues in GTA San Andreas Definitive Edition, which are pretty apparent now. And I did this side-by-side comparison between flying around in a Hydra with CJ in San Andreas Definitive Edition, as well as the OG San Andreas in the background for y'all to enjoy. So yeah, you can tell a difference between the way it looks in the original game. Now you have to put aside the graphics because yes, the graphics do look better in the Definitive Edition version, but at the same time, the fact you have this fog, this haze in the original San Andreas definitely gives the idea, the illusion, the immersion that the world of San Andreas is much bigger than it actually is. Unfortunately, in the Definitive Edition of San Andreas, that illusion is gone. We have this double-edged sword of draw distance, whereas in games like GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, etc., it looks amazing because the worlds are pretty big for an open world game, and so it's okay to see mountains and other things in the vast distances because you have a long ways to go from point A to point B before you get to those hypothetical mountains or to that different location across the map. The problem with GTA San Andreas is, despite the fact that it is the largest of the three maps from the GTA 3D era, Vice City 3, San Andreas, has three cities, Las Venturas, which is this city, and Los Santos, as well as San Fierro, and the desert in between Las Venturas and San Fierro. The main issue with the distance is that it's actually not that big. The illusion of the draw distance from the original game, as well as the fogging, the clouds, the haze, whatever you wish to call it, made San Andreas feel much bigger than it actually was. And as you can tell in the video, that illusion is stripped away from lack of fog, from lack of haze, or the fact that the game is graphically 2021 graphics on the Unreal Engine, whereas the original version of San Andreas 3 Vice City were on renderware. So obviously graphic improvements, but at the same time, there is definitely some pop-in issues that you will notice even in the current version of GTA San Andreas Definitive Edition. And it hurts San Andreas more than it helps. Now, yeah, you do see pop-ins in the original version of San Andreas, but at the same time, you have this these clouds, this fog, this haze, which implies that the world of San Andreas is much bigger than it actually is. And unfortunately, if you look at San Fierro, you see the fact that Mount Chiliad is clearly visible from San Fierro in the Definitive Edition of San Andreas, whereas if you notice, when we go back to San Fierro in a few seconds in the original San Andreas, that you will not be able to see Mount Chiliad from San Fierro just yet. Once again, the illusion is harmed in the current version of GTA San Andreas. The reason why we're focused on this one as opposed to 3 and Vice City is because in 3, I mean, you don't really have an aircraft besides the Dodo, which doesn't really fly too well. And in Vice City, the world itself is obviously smaller, so it doesn't hurt as much when it comes to the so-called improvements of draw distance in GTA San Andreas Definitive Edition. So obviously, we finally are now at the Mount Chiliad in the original San Andreas, and now this is the distance in San Andreas Definitive Edition. And it would be okay if we could see the mountains from a great distance, just like we can from Saint Denis and Red Dead Redemption 2. If you go outside of Saint Denis, you can look to the north to Roanoke Ridge, and then you can look to the north, you can see the Rocky Mountains, the Grizzlies. But the map of Red Dead Redemption 2 is obviously way larger than the map of San Andreas, and there's a lot more distance between points A and point B, which is way different in San Andreas, because you have this graphics, you have the fog effect, the haze, that give you the illusion that this world is much bigger. and it works quite well. Now, yeah, obviously you can see differences graphically, like the foliage, I will say in Definitive Edition is definitely much better, but the fact that you have this haze that's appearing in the fog or whatever it is, because I'm not an expert when it comes to graphics, it definitely, makes the draw distance feel larger between San Fierro, Las Venturas, or Las Venturas to San Fierro, or Mount Chiliad to San Fierro, or from Los Santos all the way to Mount Chiliad in GTA San Andreas. But without that fog or haze, then the illusion is lost. The immersion is gone. And in a little bit, we will go basically to the top of the world, and you'll see, you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about here. And if you take away the fact that, yeah, graphically, GTA San Andreas is dated, but for those of us that played these games back when they first came out, 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, they were amazing. They're beautiful back in the day, and they still do have a certain charm to them. And I am grateful that I purchased these 3 games on my PlayStation library a while back, because unfortunately, a lot of people now are not able to buy 3, Vice City, or San Andreas anymore because they were removed from the shelves. But fortunately, I was able to do this side-by-side comparison to the best of my abilities. There was a few trials and errors. I got shot down a few times, and I don't think I crashed, but I did get shot down at least once or twice going into restricted parts of San Andreas I wasn't supposed to go to just yet. And I think I did crash into at least one bridge. But I think I synced the side-by-sides between San Andreas Definitive Edition and the original San Andreas pretty accurately to give you an idea about the differences, not only graphically between the two and how far video games have come, but also the pros and cons between having that illusion of fog and haze from the original San Andreas all the way to the way the game looks now. So here we are in the sky at the top of the map, and right there you can clearly see the entire map of San Andreas. Los Santos, Mount Chiliad, San Fierro, the desert, and San Fierro. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be able to see the whole world of San Andreas in GTA San Andreas Definitive Edition. So this is something I think that Rockstar and Grove Street Games definitely needs to work on. They need to... I know there's a lot of issues, okay? There's a ton of issues with all 3 of these games. I've talked about it. Many others have discussed it as well in a variety of videos. We hope that most of the issues are addressed with patches and fixes, hopefully. But this is definitely one of the issues, specifically for GTA San Andreas Definitive Edition, that Rockstar and Grove Street needs to do something about. Now, credit goes to another YouTuber, Gillymaster, who did a pretty good video about a solution of sorts for GTA San Andreas using the fog cheat. It definitely helps, but as he pointed out in his own video, by the way, link below in the description section, and most of you know this, using cheats in 3, Vice City, and San Andreas don't exactly help with you trying to get awards and achievements in these games. So CJ, obviously at the top of Maze Bank in San Andreas Definitive Edition, just showing you another prime example of how ridiculously well we can see San Fierro and Las Venturas in the desert and Mount Chiliad from Maze Bank Tower in Los Santos in San Andreas Definitive Edition. This is an issue, in my opinion, that does not help the world of San Andreas. I know there's other issues as well, character issues, pop-in issues, frame rate issues, crashes, other bugs and glitches in these games that need to be addressed and fixed. But when it comes to GTA San Andreas Definitive Edition, this draw distance hurts the world of San Andreas. It takes away from the illusion, the immersion of the world itself. A world that is bigger than 3 and Vice City, obviously, but it doesn't feel bigger when you don't have a restriction to the draw distance. And that's why I consider this draw distance when it comes to a game like San Andreas to be a double-edged sword. Unlike Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA 5, whereas you can see mountains in the distance and other things, but you have a much larger distance between point A and point B. But anyways, your thoughts, your views, your opinions regarding the draw distance issue in GTA San Andreas. Do you think that Grove Street Games and Rockstar need to address this issue, or do you like it just the way it is? Your thoughts, your views, your opinions, as always, welcome below in the comments section.